Welcome back to our podcast at AIX. My guest today is Yash Thacker. He's from India. He's a true expert of artificial intelligence because he's already been in AI for more than 10 years. Yash, very happy to have you here. Maybe you say a few words about yourself. You can introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here, Mark. I've been following you guys for quite some time. You put out great podcasts and I'm very, very happy to be here.
Thank you. Very happy to have you.
Talking about the profile itself, I started in AI specifically with machine learning, which is like the subset of AI itself. And my initial product was localization based product. And this was before AI was even like a main thing. Like it was way back when I first started working in AI itself. Yeah. I didn't plan to have an entire career in AI then because, looking at people doing manual adjustments to text and so on and so forth, I never felt that we'll be in a position where AI will become an independent thing and a lot of people will use it on a commercial basis. But it did spark a basic interest and I spent 3 years in that job, working with clients like Amazon and so on and so forth. And post that I did an MBA with a goal to build or get into a product-based role because that is where you learn most about, building whichever product you're building, maybe software, AI and so on and so forth. Luckily, I got into an edtech startup where I was building an AI-based platform for connecting experts with students, leveraging AI in some capacity. I spent an year there and then I moved on to fraud detection. Again, as a product manager, building machine learning models to detect fraud by using KYC based methods, right? So we had government ID cards and we just wanted to ensure that wrong people don't have access to loans or, fraud other people or, there are no sorts of fraud happening on the platform itself. We built solutions like, face matching, face verification, signature matching and so on and so forth. So primarily into machine learning based use cases. And this was the job where I learned a lot because I built a lot of things from scratch. Basically in general AI. And from this point, I went on to, lead a Gen AI based product at a tech company where I was building a product that will take an image of your product. And this was specifically Gen AI before ChatGPT became mainstream. So we took an image of a product and we added a relevant background, for that product, context relevant background. So again, this was an experiment and we built it from scratch. And during that time, Gen AI was just becoming mainstream, right? So ChatGPT was still being adopted by a lot of folks. And most people weren't aware of ChatGPT back then. So I decided to, launch a course on my own just to see, my philosophy is that if I want to learn something better, maybe I teach it to 2 to 3 other people and then maybe I understand it and they also learn something new. And then we build a community of sorts to discuss with each other. So I built a course and, I got a few enrollments in the course and then I realized that a lot of people want to learn these tools, but there are no proper resources available in the market for learning these tools back then. So I launched a couple of courses. I got a bunch of enrollments and, since then I've been in this industry. Now I do this for a living. I build, courses, I build Gen AI based tools. I help, customers, consult them on how to use Gen AI on day-to-day basis. We build training materials and so on.
How many courses you have generated, you have done so far?
So my own, I have around 15 courses around, different specializations. But in general, I've been working with a lot of customers to build training materials, take live sessions for them in the backend and so on. So there is a lot more than 20 to 30 courses or 20 to 30 use cases that I've explored with AI, specifically fine-tuned for customers per se. So I've been doing this for quite some time now and I love it, right? Because I've been in the product space for a very long time and a part of a product manager or a job of a product manager is to take core technical concepts and explain them to the business folks, the sales team, the marketing team, and help them adapt or build processes for your customers so that they can adapt these tools and machine learning products. I've been in AI for quite some time and I've been doing it for a living ever since. So it kind of fit naturally and that is kind of why I transitioned from doing a full-time job to now doing this full-time. Again, this is a broad history of what I've been doing. I'm happy to deep dive into any of the things you might have questions on.
Impressive. Met very few people who already 10 years ago engaged in AI and basically did this all the time for their living. If you think back, is there a pivotal moment where you say in this moment, I recognize that AI is a future technology which will change our whole world, and I must be active in AI. I must be an AI guy. Do you remember the moment when you recognized this?
So I have this one moment that keeps popping up in my head and seems more relevant now. When I was working and building APIs and KYC based products for a company, I went on to a client visit. Now there, when I initially visited them, when they weren't our customers, I saw a huge department sitting, looking at these ID cards, matching ID cards with the government database, and approving these manually. And this is exactly the product that we were building, where all of this will be automated using the power of AI or using the power of machine learning. So after we onboarded them as customers, a lot of people who were doing all of this manually moved on to some other role. And these were around 20 people doing this manually before they onboarded us as the providers. And when they onboarded us, there were two people who were just human in the loop. When I say human in the loop, these guys were responsible for looking at the responses that AI has generated and then approving or denying certain ID cards or figuring out if there were some false positives or false negatives per se. So the goal, so the idea, I was in AI, but really hadn't felt the impact of AI in real life before that moment, right? So I realized the AI replaced the entire 20 people stuff with now 2 people stuff. Now imagine doing this on large scale, right? There are use cases that still leverage traditional things in order to solve real world problems. If you fit AI in every of these use cases, imagine how efficient the world could really become. So that's when it sparked my interest, and that's why I have been in this space until now and for so long.
Amazing. The courses you are doing, they are for what kind of people? I mean, who are the typical people who are watching your courses, who are following you in your courses, from which background they are, how old they are they business people, are they consumers, or what is the main customer base you have in your courses?
So a lot of my courses focus towards business leaders who want to leverage AI on their day-to-day work. Mm-hmm. They also focus on marketing people who want to actually leverage. And one of the, the biggest use case of AI is in marketing, where you do a lot of SEO optimization, you do a lot of image generation, text generation, blog writing, and so on and so forth. And then there is the third category of people who want to just learn new things, let's say AI agents, which is the hot topic right now, which effectively enables you to build agents that can automate your day-to-day work. So my audience is primarily around business people, somewhat people who are somewhat also category of people who are inclined towards leveraging AI for day-to-day productivity. So broadly around marketing and business per se.
So what's the biggest challenge of business people when it comes to AI? Where are they struggling the most? What is the biggest challenge of them according to you?
So I'll give you an example. Recently, I was speaking to one of the students who enrolled for the course, who was talking about how he wants to leverage API in his day-to-day work, or ChatGPT API in his day-to-day work, because he's building and working on a tool. What he referred to me by saying API is that, hey, ChatGPT is for free. Why should I pay for the API itself? Yeah. Right? Now most customers don't understand ChatGPT is an interface, and API is like the backend or the actual model that you talk to. So the biggest challenge that at least I face when I'm speaking to someone who's trying to learn AI, or business people who are trying to learn AI, is that their basics are still not 100% there yet, because the field has moved too fast over the last 2 years. So it's very hard to catch up. So this having these basics cleared has turned out to be like a big challenge, which is something that I'm trying to address with the course. If my course is targeted towards, let's say, business leaders, I know the kind of questions they'll ask because they've been asking me for over 2 years now. So I've ensured that all of these questions are, well answered before they get into the meat of the content itself.
Do you think enough business leaders are focusing on AI already, or do you think that the majority of the business leaders knows about AI, but it's not the top priority?
It is top priority for almost all the companies right now, because if you notice, the companies that did not leverage generative AI have already started to fall behind. To give you an example, chatbot was a huge business, right? Where you would take create chatbots, and then these expert systems per se as chatbots would then be integrated on your website, the customers would then use these chatbots to speak to your agents per se. Now there were smaller companies, smaller startups who came with generative AI based implementation on chatbots, and they took a huge chunk of the market that these big companies had. So while it is a priority, the lack of knowledge kind of turns out to be a hurdle most times. The second problem is a lot of these leaders expect their managers to take care of the learning part of the AI. They don't want to get their hands dirty. Rather, they want someone from their team, or they want to hire someone from outside in order to leverage AI and build product. Now, as a founder, if I want to change the direction of my product, I can't, and it's a major wave, right? AI is not here to stay for a couple of months. It's going to be there for a very long time. If I'm a founder, I need to be committed to be a part of the migration if there is a migration happening in the first place. So I've noticed a lot of the leaders will not get involved because it feels like it's too complex, and that primarily happens because the catch-up happens very, very slow because they don't have historical knowledge. They're scared to get in at that point. But there are ways. I mean, it's not very complex even if you start from very scratch today.
What do you think are the biggest challenges for business leaders when it comes to implementing AI in the daily processes of companies?
I'm going to say one from my example is that a lot of these business leaders or businesses are trying to build product that is perfect, meaning the product that addresses problems perfectly as defined by either the leadership team or something that they have in mind. What they don't understand is software and AI are two different things. With software, you can get to 100% of whatever you want to build, right? But with AI, it's not going to be possible. Even if you build an AI model, let's say for identifying data from college ID cards, regardless of how much cards you use in order to train that model, it's still going to be very less accurate. It's not going to be 100% accurate. So what I've noticed is that a lot of businesses are waiting to build solutions that seem 100%, but with AI models, that's not going to be possible. So the sooner they realize it, the faster they can, start building start building newer features for their product, because the customers are not going to wait until, you implement a Gen AI based solution or Gen AI based feature in the product. They are going to switch.
How is it in your private life? What kind of use cases you are using when it comes to AI, or what are use cases where you use AI for, which probably not everyone knows?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I have to think about that one. So I think one of the use cases that, and this might not be completely private because, it may be a bit professional because we do it for work here. Basically what we do is that, let's say we have a bunch of these scented candles, and when we want to gift someone something, what we would do is we would take the image of the candle, put it in the background that is relevant to them in some way or the other, and then we would create an AI that is, or an image that is more relevant to what they would like to see in the card itself. So that's one use case. The second one is like what we do is we train these models to identify our face, like how we look, and then we generate our avatars using AI. So a bunch of us generated like us, like in the Avengers movie, superhero, we keep face swapping to just have fun with each other. So this is what we do on a company basis to just learn and to have fun on weekends. So let's say we'll take a movie and then we'll take a face swap model, and then we'll swap our face with the Avenger character or whoever is in the movie itself. So that's that's kind of the fun activity that we do with AI.
What are your favorite AI tools? I mean, ChatGPT, everyone knows, but what are other tools you are using which you think are really cool?
So I think CLAUDE is one of the best tools. It's actually underrated. When you use CLAUDE, and again, it depends on what use case you are using the text generation model for. So if you're using it for coding based use cases, CLAUDE is one of the best tools that I have used so far. So I wasn't in coding as such 2 years back. But because of these AI models, I learned how to code Python, I learned how to code React, Next.js, and so on and so forth. So based on what I have been using, so I used ChatGPT a lot before, but currently, based on my experience, I think CLAUDE is better if you're trying to learn to code or writing code in general. The second tool is Artflow AI. It is it's underrated tool, but if you're doing a lot of content creation and you need avatars, or face. If you need images for your thumbnail, then I think Artflow AI is also a good tool to generate avatars without having to go through like a complex process of generating or training a model and then using that model to generate the avatar. So these are two of my favorite tools that I don't think most people use.
Yeah. This is, I think so. How do you see the future? For about 1.5 years, everyone is talking about AI. Since the moment ChatGPT came on the market, so many things have happened in this 1.5 years. How do you see the future when you look another 3, 4, 5 years ahead?
So recently, I think Llama 3.1 went live, which is an open source model by Meta, and a lot of people, calculated the benchmarks with respect to where the 405 billion parameter model, which is the largest Llama 3.1 model, is right now, as opposed to the closed source models like GPT-4o or Claude 3 Sonnet right now. Now, what I realized, or the graph itself also says that in the next few years, open source will eventually catch up with closed source models. So in my opinion, open source will become a thing in the future, and a lot of leaders who are now trying to integrate OpenAI or Claude APIs in the backend should actually look at open source alternatives that are way cheaper than the closed source models. So that's going to become the norm. The second, I think we will see some sparks of AGI. So OpenAI published a roadmap towards AGI. So they are making progress towards AGI. Right now they're approaching level 2, which is a huge step in the reasoning standpoint. In order for us to achieve AGI, what we need the models to do is have more reasoning capacity. Reasoning meaning they should be confident with respect to the responses that they give, and hence fewer amount of hallucination in the response itself. So I think we will see some sparks of AGI, and we will start seeing a lot more agent-based workflows. When I say agents, these agents will be like humans, right? They will be, answering your questions just like a human would. You would ping someone on Slack saying that, hey, what's the growth of the amount of users on our platform today? And the agent is going to respond and give you reasons with respect to what exactly happened. Now, the agent has access to all your data. So the agent is way faster than a human. He's not going to go to the UI to check what the data tells or what the data says. He's not going to use Excel sheets to calculate. It has everything with it. So it's going to use that knowledge to give you responses faster. And because the agent itself is going to be more of the level 2 AGI, it's going to sound just like a human. So I think AGI, AI agents, and open source winning or open source getting ahead of the closed source AI.
Sounds exciting. What would your recommendation for businesses? If we have a business producing some steel tubes or food production or whatever, what is your recommendation for those businesses now? What they should do in the coming years, not to fall back, and ideally be front runners in all these new developments?
I think, again, this is a great question. I think businesses should first keep up to date with everything that is happening in Gen AI space right now. I've noticed that a lot of people don't take this very seriously, and they outsource it to other folks who may be responsible for the role itself. But it's not going to be the person who's responsible for keeping up to date is not responsible for actually making the implementation or making changes to the roadmap itself. So people who are in the responsible positions like product managers or founders and so on and so forth should be up to date with everything that is happening in AI and ensuring that these newer integrations take place as soon as possible. So for example, Llama 3 Llama 3.1 was way better than Llama 3. And the integration, in order to improve the quality of the response, you need to migrate faster. So if the leaders are aware of the implementation, this is going to be faster. If you rely on rely on a newsletter, that's going to be a slower implementation. The speed is going to be of the essence. Second, ensuring that your employees are not only looking at newer updates or looking at emails, but they're actually going practical with the implementation. So in all of my courses, what I clearly start with is that this is not going to be a talking course or this is not going to be a tech talk. Open your laptop, work with me, and we are going to be learning how to use certain AI tools, because there will be situations in which these employees are not going to have any handholding and they need to perform at that point. Obviously, over-reliance is also not good, because that reduces the thinking potential for a lot of these folks who are using AI a lot more now. But speed is very important. Keeping up to date and actual practical implementation for what is happening in AI is very, very important over the next few years.
All right. Thank you. I think this brings us to the end of the interview. Thank you very, very much for your great insights. I think you are really an experienced AI guy. All the best for your future. And I hope that very soon we will also have a course together on AIX.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mark. It was a pleasure speaking to you. Like I said, I've been watching your content and I'm inspired by the things you do. Keep posting newer podcasts, and I'll be looking forward to more podcasts coming from AIX as well in the future.
Super.
So thank you so much for this.
Thank you very much. All the best. I think this was an amazing interview. And if you like interviews like this, you should subscribe this channel, switch on the notification bell, because more or less every day we are uploading similar videos with experts of AIX. AIX, as you know, is the biggest international channel for training and academy in artificial intelligence. So whatever information you need, you will find on our channel, you will find with our experts. So in those podcasts, you meet the experts. So stay tuned and see you very soon in one of our next videos.